It's probably worth, for those who don't know, actually just explaining a bit about the mechanics of how this works, how the deal is structured, who gets what.
Every day we send out an email to over 1 million people that subscribe at our website, and attached to that email is an interesting idea for something to do in your city. It could be a restaurant, a day spa, or an event, or something else, sometimes a product. And the unique thing about all of our services that attach to that interesting idea is a minimum number of people that have to buy that deal to activate a discount of between 50 to 90%. So what we see is when we email that out, the people who are most passionate and most interested in what you're offering in that deal are highly incentivized to jump on Facebook, to jump on Twitter, to get on their email and tell their friends about this amazing experience that we've just sent out. And so that's how we've all grown so quickly. The viral mechanics that drive this business are so important, and it's how we've all grown to the market's estimated at $500 million by the end of the year. So it's a huge, fast-growing market.
So we spend a fair amount of time talking to the business owner to make sure that our goals are aligned, and that kind of sounds like it's something that, of course, I'm going to say that. I think it's increasingly true that we have to. Merchants are becoming more savvy. And they've on occasion tried more than one group buying site. They're now more aware than ever of what's going to be important to them. It's not always about volume. Quite often businesses looking for one of two things. They either want to drive a discount to increase utilization of their business, they've got some spare capacity, or they want to incentivize people to come and try their business en masse. So there's two different goals there. Depending on the goals of the individual business will determine the type of deal that we strike with them. We spend a lot of time hand-holding them through that process.
What's the split between you and the merchandiser?
Well, the split is really dependent on the lifetime customer value of the customer that comes into the venue. So there's a lot of different categories that we supply from fitness sort of outfits through to restaurants and obviously, day spas. Every company has a different customer value, and we sort of work out what that customer value is, and then we work out what is a fair split. So in some cases where we're providing a lot of value, so if you think in the fitness and gym industry where it's actually very difficult to get a new customer, they also understand the value of a lifetime customer. They know usually it takes 3 or 4 months to break even on a customer. They're usually prepared to give away most of the money to get that customer in.
Basically, this is kind of like the radio ad rep walking through the door and saying, I'm going to run $200,000 worth of advertising for your business and not charge you a cent. I'm only going to charge you for the customers that walk through the door. So, regardless of the discussion around margins or whatever, it's still the best marketing medium any local business has ever seen.
Do you guys think there are some things that you should do as a part of the industry that you should speak with one voice on?
Well, I think before we get in the argument about who is and isn't the number one, I thought it was important that we have a fair fight today. So I brought along a little gift for everyone just to make sure that it was a good, fair, above board kind of fight.
Look, yes and no. I mean, to a degree, it's not that important. I mean, whether one of us talks about how, Nielsen says we're number one, the other one says Telsite says we're number one by revenue, the other one, no one gives a monkeys. Basically, you are either doing a good thing for a bunch of merchants and providing great experiences for consumers, or you're not, and you go out of business. And I think we've seen, way too much nonsense in the market from the smaller players willing to just do any desperado tactic, either to claim the number one, Star Deals last week with Hitwise, or, publish nonsense on their own websites. Just rubbish. And there's no room for it. This is a serious business about providing growth to good merchants. And this is a serious business about providing great experiences to consumers who we hope will become future loyal customers for those merchants. There's no room for all the rest of it. So one of the things that we did a wee while ago was we launched the Cudo Promise. The Cudo Promise basically says, if you're not entirely satisfied by the voucher that you've purchased and the experience that you've had, if you're treated like a second-class citizen instead of a first one, we will move heaven on earth to make it right, to try and get the merchant to come around. And if that doesn't happen, we'll refund your money, and it's a promise. That has somewhat evolved over the last month or so into something far more meaningful, which is a framework for the industry around a code of conduct. Now, it's only begun as a framework, and we talked to Spreets as the most natural participant. We felt, as we looked at the landscape, who's the other group buying company that we feel typically acts most responsibly, and we felt like Spreets would be a good bedfellow in this.
we all are improving and doing what we do to try and make the merchant and consumer experience better. But I think where Billy and I were talking about that, we're just trying to set some ideas down, like for everyone to buy into today. And like, it was something that's only kind of come up in the last week or two, but we thought, today would be a good time to kind of put it on the table and say, let's all set a framework, and let's, as the leaders of the industry, let's lead those other small players.
Sign up, get involved.
Let me just bring in Hezi into this.
There's a lot of assumptions being made by my colleagues here as well, as when it comes to knowing what the other, what the other colleague or how they run their business. I certainly agree with having a code of conduct.
Quite happy to join in that. I mean, we already have very high standards, so it's not going to be a problem at all. I think it is important that we get together to do that.
For marketers, I presume there's a risk or a perceived risk as well, which is that are you cheapening your brand by offering it for a massive discount? Are you saying something about that brand?
I bought my mum a 60th birthday present at the Gucci shop, and they were on sale. I think everyone goes on sales from time to time. I think it's about getting customers to try something new. They got a customer. My mum loved the wallet, absolutely, and we'll probably be going back to get the bag as well. And this is how they've earned a customer. I never looked at it and said, well, just because it was discounted, the brand is no longer holding the same value that I had for it before I walked in.
We've actually done a lot of research into our audience, and one of the first things, Yahoo's got a great research department, and so we went and really found out, who is our audience and what do they think about group buying. And the most interesting thing that came out of that research was that the way people perceive what's displayed on the site, directly to the question you asked, and that is they don't see it as a discount because it's actually everyone understands the analogy. If you go to the supermarket and you pay $30 for a kilo of eye fillet, that's premium kind of meat. But if you bought 100 kilos of it, you'd get a better price for it. And that's the exact group buying concept that feeds into the products that we display every day. People aren't devaluing that product, even less so than a sale that you walk past, because actually people realise they're only getting it because lots of people are buying it.
This is a massive bubble, isn't it?
Don't talk rubbish. What are you talking about? Look, the capacity for this category to continue to grow, and let's be honest, this is a once-in-a-decade market opportunity. Dean said at the top that it was forecast for $400 million, $500 million in this calendar year. That means from a standing start, group buying will become 70% of the size of display advertising in like 12 months, which is incredible. So it's no bubble, albeit it looks like one given its growth. But the sustainability in this business is tied to service, is tied to providing genuine growth for the businesses that we feature, is tied to improving utilization and offering great experiences. There will be fatigue. We're seeing fatigue in some areas. But I believe that there is a ton of capacity for growth.
I don't think bubbles don't make real revenue, and they don't solve real problems. And the group buying model solves two massive fundamental problems. And one is, on the consumer side, most of us are pretty bored with the stuff we do every week. We end up going to the same restaurants and going to the same bars and day spas. And actually, for us to convince ourselves to do something different is really hard. You've got to research and do it. What this does is it gets people, enacting people, inspiring them to do different things. And that's a pretty powerful consumer connection, and you're getting people out of their comfort zone and getting them to try new things. And the flip side is on the merchant side, there's nothing that delivers the quality of new customer like this. And so those fundamental problems, as a local business owner that I've felt, it's a massive pain, and it solves a massive pain. When you solve a massive pain, you make a lot of money, and that's what we're doing.
I think the business model's here to stay. I mean, I started selling advertising on computers in 1993, on Yellow Pages, on discs, selling to the restaurants, the same market. So I've seen the evolution of that, and this is the natural evolution of measurable performance advertising. Google's sort of vaguely measurable in terms they can tell you how many clicks they get, and sometimes you work out how many sales you get if you're online. But this is the first time we've had measurable advertising offline. And it's going to change the whole of offline people saying, hold a second, We need to work out stuff that's totally measurable. No more general ads that maybe work, maybe don't work. Let's get stuff that really, really works.
Hi, Gabby from News Magazines. I'm just curious about the issue of quantity over quality consumers. It seems like you're sort of outputting a lot of traffic, but the reality is I'm really curious to see what you get in terms of actual fulfilment of your vouchers, the percentage of conversion, and also the repeat purchase for the actual client, because it seems to me that would be a higher value proposition in terms of quality.
It varies across category and varies across type of merchant who's managing it. So professional, savvy merchants who have prepared for it, prepared to treat the clients very well, they're getting up to 85%. So we've had Brad and Nyata at the Ivy getting 85% hairdressing. They brought them in on the hairdressing deal. 85% of those people rebooked. We've had restaurants also getting rebookings by asking them to make another booking or offering them a glass of wine. So it's very high on the repeat when the merchant listens to probably what we all do, which is the consultative sale. This is what you should do. Treat the client like gold.
Hezi.
I absolutely agree. When merchants do the right thing by their customers, which I think they should absolutely do, the amount of repeat business, upselling is phenomenal. I mean, some of the suppliers that we've surveyed have had 95% just simply by providing a great service to the members that we've sent them and actually asking for them to make a following booking resulted in 95% a repeat booking, which is unbelievable.
Where do you see other media partners fitting into where your particular offers are going and how they might play into the future?
Like any business, exposure is good, and the right exposure is best. We've been very, very careful about not overusing the 9MSN media assets because we happen to be in the same group as them, but that's not as important as finding the right audience. We're finding our audience primarily from TV, also from Google, also from Facebook. I talked a bit about this, the price-sensitive audience, and it's really important. You don't just want to go out and just talk about having a big audience. You've got to have the right people, and the right people need to be premium. You don't want these people rocking up at your merchants that you've worked really hard to secure. You've convinced them there's upsell opportunity. You've convinced them there's loyalty to be had. And they come in, they spend to the voucher, they leave no tip and they disappear. It can't be about that. So the media that we choose to use is all about fit and audience.
Media is nice, but actually the sort of people that are hard to reach, that are high consumers of the internet, that are socially connected, they're the people these brands want to reach, and they're the ones we focus on. The alignment with media companies, our biggest reason for doing the deal with Yahoo 7 was their fantastic behavioural targeting technology. So they actually understand, what people like and how they, are influenced. And for us going forward, that's what's going to be most important in the daily deals. That you're getting an email that's most relevant to you, and we're using that fantastic technology to help us understand what makes you tick, and then they can match that to their media property. So that's a nice to have, but to be honest, it's not fundamental to our success in the future.
Two alliances that we announced are basically for the following reasons. The Fairfax Group have got city-based newspapers, and we found that the merchants would be very interested in being seen in their own city, being featured on those pages, and we give them free extraditional exposure now on the front page of Fairfax, all the newspapers in all their cities, which is worth quite a lot to that merchant. They can never afford it themselves. So that's how it's working for us and our merchants, the extra exposure. And then eBay, we found... We bought some advertising on eBay a while back, and we found that eBay buyers are the best buyers that you can buy out of any buyers that we could find on the internet, or any affiliates that ever send us traffic. Makes sense. These people are already running auctions. These are people already looking for deals. So we're very happy to have secured that relationship.